What's up everyone, Parox here, and today I have another map guide for you. This time I'm looking at Mountain Pass, and while this map may seem pretty straightforward, obvious flanks all over the map, I think there's some crucial parts to this map that new players haven't picked up on yet. So in this video I'm going to teach you all about Mountain Pass, the different flanks, good positions to use, whether you're playing light tanks, heavy tanks, medium tanks, TDs, and even arty. So let's get straight into it. Alright, so first off we're going to talk about the north spawn. That's the green cap circle with the little 1 in the upper left of the mini-map. What I'm going to do in this map guide video, I didn't do in the previous ones. I'm going to talk about just general tactics and strategies for the north side first. I feel like that'll help explain some of the positionings that I'm going to go into later in the video. So the first thing is spawns right up here, and right off the bat you see this nice long flank. It's kind of pretty, you know, there's snow all over the place, and you think it might be a good idea to go there, but you probably don't want to. This flank usually is won by the south side, because they can just camp down here, poke around, and it's just a big firefight. Both teams lose a lot of hit points. I very rarely see the north team win the ice road, is what it's called. So next we're going to talk about the bridge. So this entire area right here, I don't think it's too necessary for a lot of tanks to go to the bridge, just maybe one tank to keep an eye on it. And now we have the middle area. So you got this little rock here, and there's another little rock here. And also you can camp this ridge. Looks like a face. Anyway, send a couple of guys here, usually, that's what happens. Some people go ice road, some people go bridge, and then you have a cluster of tanks here. That way you can shoot guys as they cross over on that side. And usually a majority of your team will go down on this, behind this mountain, across the J line, and usually sit around here, and up in this area by the rocks. This is a pretty good location. It's usually where a majority of the fighting takes place along this southern part. So I would definitely say a majority of the force should be around that area. Alright, so getting into our first class here, I'm going to talk about light tanks on the north spawn. Like I was saying in the kind of tactics overview for the north, I would send one light tank up here to this area. Right here where that rock is, there's a ridge right there, so if you send your light tank over here to this side, and there's another face again. What's up with that? Just poke over this ridge and try to get some lights for your team. Try to spot the enemies that'll be coming around here. I don't believe you should push the ice road at all, because first of all, this area right here is an uphill slope. Pretty good hill. I mean, especially for the heavy tanks that usually go down there. So if you have one light, like I said, just sitting right around there, to poke out every once in a while. You don't want to continuously be lit, because arty could kill you. But just sit right here, provide some intel for your team, see what's coming down there, and if they start to push on you, just get out. I think one light tank up there is pretty good to spot enemies that are trying to push there. Also, maybe a quick peek on the bridge. You might be able to scurry your way across this ridge line and up to this rock. Maybe poke out and try to spot some things crossing the bridge, maybe some enemies over here, or over here by these rocks. And these are just sort of initial positions to poke out, see what's there, and then leave later if you want to reposition. So next thing I'm going to talk about is this kind of middle area. Right around here, there's a little ridge. There's some trees and bushes there that you can use to spot guys as they poke here. And you can be a little bit more bold and pull out slightly down the hill and be able to spot guys that are back here. That's a pretty alright light tank spot, I think. You don't want to do anything really too bold at the beginning of the game, but just to get some really lights, that's a pretty nice spot. Now, there's this one rock that everybody seems to love, and I don't know why people love it so much. This rock right here. You'll be able to see a more detailed zoomed in version of it in the gameplay feed that'll be happening to the right of this. But anyway, a lot of people like to rush to this rock. I'm not sure why, because the enemy team spawns down here, runs up here, and then pokes this ridgeline, and you get shot a bunch of times and die, because there's not really any cover for you to fall back on. So, moral of the story here is, don't go to that rock, because it sucks and you'll get killed most of the time. I also wouldn't rush straight across the bowl in the very beginning of the match. If you don't have a lot of support back here, the enemies, once again, can rush up this way and poke out over here and shoot you that way. You won't have much protection except for right here, but then you would possibly be an arty target for the enemy artillery. So don't rush the bowl early game. Late game, sure, you can rush down here, try to get spots of guys that are up here around this area, and that might help your team, but definitely not in the early stages. Another thing I like to do with my light tanks from the north spawn is kind of run with the mediums on this map. I like to go around here, get up on top of this ridge, just do some initial poking. On this ridge right here, there's a rock that you can use to take cover, but it's not very effective since you have to poke out a lot and aim. So, you know, aiming, that's the part that sucks. But there's not really any good locations for you, especially light tanks. They're not super tall, so they can't really shoot over top of the rock too well. And just poking out would be dangerous. There's usually guys camping here, that might be able to shoot you, no matter which way you poke out. Alright, so next we're going to talk about medium tanks. I don't think Ice Road is a very good option for medium tanks, unless you have a super strong turret, and there's not really anyone going over here, just to try to poke and bounce shots from any enemy tanks that may be down here. I have never, ever gone to the bridge in my medium tanks. Usually there's lots of big TDs over here that are camping, waiting for someone to poke out, so that's generally not a good idea to go to the bridge. Early game, I usually like to sit on this area with my mediums, poke out, get some shots from at guys that are here or over here as they're crossing, going down this way. I usually stay there for about a minute or two, wait till all the enemies have crossed into here, and then I will relocate down this area. So once you're down into this kind of southern main fighting area, there's about 3 options that you can do. You can camp up here. That's really not the best. I mean, I do it sometimes, get a couple shots off to unsuspecting enemies maybe, if they're trying to cross down this way. But generally what I'll do is, if there's a couple of fast medium tanks on my team, I'll push straight down here all the way up into this this H3 sector. That's kind of where I usually tend to go, because if they have anybody who pushed into the bowl, you'll have perfect shots on them if you're sitting right there. Also, you can poke over right here, get shots on anyone who's camping here or back here at this, not back here at that rock, my bad, just right up here. Usually there's a lot of guys camping up there, so you'll be good there. And another thing you can do, if their team doesn't have a lot of guys back here, you can push down around the other side of this little mound and come down here and use that rock right there to cover yourself from artillery, try to get some shots on guys that are here, or if their team has also pushed up into there, you can get shots on them as well. And one of the mid to late game tactics for medium tanks on the north side is, if this south area isn't really going anywhere, it's just a big poke and shoot fight, and if they have a lot of guys who have pushed up your ice road, I actually did this in the tier 9 Wolfpack video that I posted. My platoon mates just pushed straight into the bowl and over here, and once you get to kind of this area, there's a couple of rocks down there. It'll hide you from guys who are up here and over here, and then once you push into this area, you'll have perfect cover from any of the enemies over here, and you can just flank and shoot all the guys that are in your ice road. Alright, so now I'm going to go over TD spots for the north. I don't really think ice road's a good option, mainly because Artie could just focus you down. You're usually pretty slow. Same with the bridge, just going to be a poke and shoot between any TDs that'll be camping over there. I really think the main TD spots for this map that can really help your team win is the south. Mainly these 2 corners right here. You can just kind of sit back, not be too aggressive, and keep the enemy at bay. They won't really want to push around to your gun, because that wouldn't work out well for them. And also, you could Possibly if you're in lower tier TDs, faster TDs, you could come up here where I like to push around with the mediums, and that's also an option. But generally, I think these two spots right here, and you could also camp behind this rock right here to get some early shots on guys that are crossing there. It's a little more difficult to get guys crossing here since they changed the map, but it's still an option. This rock, again, out of the question. Any tank you're in, never go to that rock because you'll just die. And some more late game positions for TDs. If your team is losing or it's close and you just want to like camp it out, there's some rocks right here. You could alternate between defending enemies pushing from here or pushing over the bridge. And if that falls, you could camp behind the ridge right here, or you could also camp up onto this ridge here. I don't really advise doing that because Arty could hit you, but I have actually seen people miss tank destroyers or artillery that was camping up on top there. Alright, so we're going to move on to Arty now for the north. Generally, I see people just camp in this base area. I mean, that's okay if you're going to hit guys that are right here or back in here. But there are some a little more dangerous places that you can use. For instance, there's a lot of bushes in this sector right here. You could position yourself around there, try to get some shots farther kind of into where this rock is that you wouldn't have if you're positioned up here. Also, you could be really bold, locate down to this sector and try to shoot guys that are back here or kind of camping around there. It's also really dependent on your gun arc, depending on whether you're not going to hit some of these spots. Alright, so for heavy tanks on the north, I think it's super important that a majority, if not all of your heavy tanks, focuses on the south. Because if you have a lot of heavies down here, you can kind of group up around here, push into their mediums that are camping there, and their mediums will really have no chance of surviving. You could also push down this way and come up around beside them and kill anybody that's camping here or here. Basically, just if you can, get your heavies together, push up here or push down over here. I don't think heavies have a place anywhere else in the map. It's a pretty sluggish terrain all over the place, so the bridge, dead end, the ice road, you're going to have a very long time, especially starting here and here. There's a hill in this middle area, so you don't really want to be climbing that in heavy tanks, especially slow heavy tanks. So I'm going to move on to the south now, down here at this red base. Like I did with the north, I'm going to go over some general tactics that can be used on this map. I would send a couple of tanks down here, just in case they send a lot to the ice road. I wouldn't devote too much of your forces here because you do have to climb up all the way this big hill. So just a couple of guys there, maybe someone at the bridge, and just to hold it. I haven't really seen bridge pushes ever work, I don't think, ever. So maybe, oh, not maybe, someone is going, or two people might camp right there. A majority of your forces, again, push around in here. Some split up here and some split off and head down here. And there are some rocks here that you can camp at, try to get some sneaky shots, maybe side scrape, try to get some of the guys that are sitting there and there. And that's pretty much it. You can also late game again use the bowl. The bowl isn't too useful down here unless from the south spawn, unless you pushed over this way, because there's not really anywhere to go unless you want to go all the way in and up the ice road. If this area is blocked by TDs or other tanks and the ice road is clear, you could do that faster than falling all the way back around this way. But you can also push straight across, get up into their forces, keep them lit, You can poke, kill guys that are here, that are back here, and then you can move to this rock where you're shaded from artillery somewhat and try to kill guys that are back there. So light tanks for the south. I generally like to stick with the mediums on this, especially just this entire map. I like to stick with mediums. I don't go down here with my light tanks. I just don't really see a point to it. Heavy tanks can spot things just fine that are camping here if they're right here, so not too worried about that. Also not worried about the bridge. Usually a TD will go there, hold it up, spot some things itself. I like to rush straight across into this area, try to spot anyone that runs into the bowl or is camping at that rock. What I also like to do is poke this corner a little bit, just as soon as I get there, see if anything's coming around this corner. Another option you could do is push down this behind this rock here, and you might be able to spot some of their tanks that are over here, or more importantly, if you're around kind of this area, and there's a lot of ridges here, mini ridges that you can hide. You can spot their tanks that have pushed up into this bowl without exposing yourself too much. Alright, medium tanks. The focus is primarily, again, around this area. Ice Road, some heavies can go there. Bridge, also pretty much out of the question. Usually late game, like 2 enemies left against like your team's 5 maybe, I'll push across the bridge. It is relatively safe from arty whenever if they're camping up here at the end of the game. But generally what I'll do early game, come out of my spawn, rush across here as soon as possible, get up into this H3, H4 area. It is a little vulnerable to arty that are camping up on this ridge, so you gotta be careful of that. That's why I usually like to hug this ridge line. You can sometimes poke and get some shots. That's a little risky though. Mainly what I do like to do here early game is kill the guy that camps that rock, there's always one, and try to get some other shots around any enemies that are over here. If the enemy team starts to push around this corner and down here, this spot is not really viable anymore. So what you can do, it's a little bit dangerous if there's guys up here, but you can fall off the back of this ridge line. You can then either push up here, kill any guys that are camping here or here, or you can move back up this ridge line and get behind this rock. You can camp there, snipe the guys that come through here, or either go way back into your base and camp up top if you really just want to, I don't know, farm damage if it's a for sure loss. Also, another thing that you can do is come down this area, use some of these ridge lines down here to shoot some guys that are here poking around this corner, or if their team has faster mediums that they pushed up into here, you'll be able to sit and poke right around this corner to kill anybody, any medium tanks or light tanks that have pushed up into that area. Right, on to the heavy tanks. Generally the heavy tanks might be too slow to get up to here. In fact, I've never really seen a heavy tank up here unless it's like an IS-7 or something. So what I usually like to do is push around this, stay as close as I can to this part of the mountain to avoid being shot from over there. And then what I like to do is just kind of either side scrape on one of these rocks or over here, or push all the way down here, and then I might be able to move up to these rocks, put some pressure on guys here or here. What you can also do is push down to this area, especially if they don't have a lot of guys up here, and if you're a pretty good heavy tank player, I'd say you could get a couple guys and push straight up into here. You shouldn't have to worry too much about being shot over here, unless some of the mediums figured out that you could, go down into the bowl like that. Alright, moving on to the TDs. If you're in a bigger, slower TD, you can try to sit around here, get some early shots on guys that are there. Or if anyone pushes straight into the bowl, you can also kind of use these rocks, especially this one right here, maybe side scrape if you're in a heavily armored TD. You can defend the bridge, and you can also kind of pull out a little bit and shoot anybody if their team is pushing down the ice road. What I usually like to do instead, if I'm in a somewhat fast TD, I can get around here and sit down here. There's usually some bushes that the enemies can't really see through. Like there's a couple here and here that'll block their vision from you. So that's a pretty good spot. You could move up here. That's a little bit more risky. Same with poking around this corner. If you're kind of fast, this corner might be good. Get some shots on there, and then just kind of pull back. But if you're a slower TD, you might not make it directly across here. You can head down to the bottom, safe from artillery, unless they do locate over there, and shoot the guys that are sitting there and there. Alright, so moving on to artillery positions. Usually main position back here at around K9. You can shoot guys that are kind of driving down the middle on the other side there. I see sometimes arty that'll climb up onto this hill and kind of sit on this ridge at H0. That way they'll have a nice arc shot over to the guys around the J2 sector, and even if they're pushing up like this. Now I have seen some people do this in faster artillery, like the French artillery. They will kind of take a medium TD position around here and sit back in this area, and what they can do from here is just have nice accurate shells that kind of rain down on your guys right here, and they might be able to move up a little bit to get some more accurate shots around there. Also, I have seen arty camp up like way up here on this ridge to get for like arty that doesn't have too good of an arc, so that way this mountain won't be a problem. That way they can get shots right in here. Now, I mean, you can get some positions that'll get you some shots on the ice road. For longer range artillery, like the higher tier arty, right back here should do just fine. But you can also move up to this H7 area and get some shots in around here. You will get cut off slightly, it looks like, where this mountain is, but that's if they're being a little bit aggressive and pushing down there. Alright, so that just about does it for Mountain Pass. Hopefully you newcomers have learned something about how to play your favorite class on this map, maybe, or some of the old comers. I guess that's a word. If you haven't really had a chance to look in depth at this map, hopefully this provided some insight for you. But anyways guys, if you've enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe. I'll see you next time.